how a girl never stood for herself, but being a mother gave her enough courage to fight for his son and to protect him even from her own mother. My own mother tried to snatch my newborn. I endured. I heard control all my childhood, but not with my son. But this time, I fought back, and what happened next changed everything. I am 28F, and this is my story about how my mother controlled all my childhood, and now she wants same for my son. I was sitting on the couch that evening, rocking my baby boy in my arms. He was just 4 weeks old, so tiny and fragile. Finally asleep after hours of crying. My whole body felt heavy with exhaustion, but holding him made me feel calm, almost safe. My mother stood near the window, her arms crossed, her eyes sharp, the same look she always gave me when she thought I was doing something wrong. The late afternoon sunlight streamed through the glass, carving hard shadows across her face. She didn't look like a woman softened by age or mellowed by the joy of becoming a grandmother. She looked the same as she always had, neat and watchful, ready to correct. In a firm, bossy tone, she said, "Emily, tilt his head a little. You'll block his nose like that. Hold him properly." Her words pierced the silence of the room. My heart sank. I had known this moment would come, that she would question, correct, and command me even as I cradled my newborn. I sighed, trying to keep my voice steady and polite. "Mom, he's fine," I said softly, almost pleading. "He just fell asleep. Please, let him rest." My arms curled protectively around my baby, his tiny chest rising and falling against mine. But she didn't stop. She never did. Her voice grew sharper, filled with irritation. "You don't understand. Babies can suffocate like this. Give him to me." I clutched my son tighter, my voice firm now. "No, Mom, he's asleep. Please." Her face twisted with anger, her jaw tightening. She snapped, louder this time, "Emily, don't argue with me. Give him here." Before I could react, she lunged toward me, her hands reaching. My heart raced as panic surged through me. I twisted away, holding my baby closer, but her fingers clamped onto my arm with such force it made me wince. The sting of her grip wasn't just physical, it unlocked 1,000 memories. Every moment she had used her hands, her words, her will to hold me still, to keep me under her control. I shouted, my voice trembling with both anger and fear. "Stop. Don't ever grab him like that again." She froze, glaring at me, her tone defensive and offended. "I wasn't grabbing him," she said coldly. "I was grabbing you." I stared at her in disbelief, my voice shaking with shock. "That's even worse." The room went silent, except for my baby's soft whimper. My chest felt tight, my heart pounding in my ears. For the first time in years, I couldn't keep quiet. My words came out low, but firm, a mixture of sadness and anger. "I can't live like this anymore. Mom, I want you in our lives, but I need my own choices. I need you to respect me as his mother. Please, just try to understand." She scoffed, waving her hand dismissively, her voice dripping with superiority. "I only want the best for him. You don't know what you're doing. I've raised children before. I am always right." Her tone made it clear, nothing I said mattered. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the living room in silence. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken words. My husband Daniel sat beside me, his brows furrowed, concern etched into every line of his face. His voice was low, gentle. "Are you okay?" I shook my head, my voice barely above a whisper. "She doesn't see me as an adult, not even now, and I don't know what to do. I want her to love our son, but I can't raise him in the same fear I grew up in." Daniel squeezed my hand, his tone calm but serious. "Then you have to stand your ground. Emily, protect him. Protect yourself." I wanted to believe his words were enough, but standing up to her felt like standing at the base of a mountain I'd been climbing my whole life. The next morning, Mom acted as if nothing had happened. She hummed cheerfully, cooing over the baby in a sing-song voice, dropping little tips in a superior tone, as if she were the world's authority on motherhood. She criticized my cooking with a snarky laugh, made faces at how I folded the laundry, even corrected the way I tied my hair back. As though my very existence required constant improvement, I bit my tongue and forced polite answers, my insides churning. And as she talked, the walls of memory pressed in around me. I was 9, standing in front of the bathroom mirror with a brush tangled in my hair. My mother's reflection loomed behind me. Her eyes narrowed. "You don't know how to do anything properly," she muttered as she yanked the brush from my hands. Her strokes were harsh, tugging at my scalp until tears pricked my eyes. "Mom, it hurts," I whispered. "You're too sensitive," she snapped. "If you can't even handle this, how will you survive in life?" The tears rolled silently down my cheeks, mixing with the strands of hair clinging to my face. I had wanted to scream, to run, to hide, but I never did. I just stood there, learning that silence was safer than speaking. The memories bled into the present, where, once again, I sat quiet under her commentary, nodding at her advice, swallowing down the hurt. But that afternoon, something in her shifted. Her voice dropped, quieter, almost shaky. She stared into her teacup and muttered, "You don't know what it was like for me." I looked at her, confused, and asked softly, "What do you mean?" She didn't meet my eyes. Her tone was tired, almost broken. When I was young, your grandmother was worse than me. Much worse. I couldn't do anything right. She told me I was useless, made me feel like I'd never survive without her. I swore I'd never let my child grow up weak like I did. Her words stunned me. For the first time, her voice wasn't full of control. It was full of pain. I thought of my grandmother, a stern, humorless woman whose presence always felt suffocating. She had rarely spoken to me, but when she did, it was sharp and judgmental. I remembered visiting her house once and watching her bark orders at my mother, who obeyed like a scolded child. I had never thought about what it must have been like for my mother to grow up under her roof. My own voice came out gentle, almost whispering, "Mom, I'm not weak, and neither is my son. But if you don't stop, I'll have to protect him from you. And that's not what I want." Her lips tightened, her tone turning cold again. "You'll regret talking to me like this." I knew I had struck a nerve. 2 nights later, the baby started crying at 2 a.m. I dragged myself out of bed, exhausted, and picked him up, rocking him gently against my chest. His tiny fists pressed into my collarbone as his cries softened. I whispered lullabies in the dim light. My voice cracked from sleep but filled with love. Then I heard her voice at the door, sharp scolding, cutting through the silence. "You're holding him too much. You'll spoil him. Give him here." I shook my head, my voice steady but firm. "No." Her voice grew louder, filled with frustration. "Emily, don't be stubborn. You don't know what you're doing." Something inside me snapped. My voice rose, louder than I had ever spoken to her, filled with years of anger. "Stop treating me like a child. This is my baby, my family. You don't get to control me anymore." Her face turned pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Then, to my shock, her eyes filled with tears. Her voice cracked, trembling with fear. "You'll abandon me," she whispered, "just like everyone else." I froze. I had never seen my mother like that. Not strong, not proud, just broken. Her whisper hung in the air like smoke. "You'll abandon me, just like everyone else." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I had never seen her that way, her voice cracking, her eyes glistening. She looked less like the towering, unbreakable figure who had ruled my life, and more like a small, wounded woman terrified of being left behind. I shifted my son against my chest, his tiny breaths warm on my skin, and stared at her. "Mom," I said softly, "I'm not abandoning you, but I can't let you take over my life anymore. I won't." Her lips trembled, but in an instant, her walls went back up. Her tone snapped sharp again, as though my glimpse into her vulnerability had been a mistake. "You'll see," she hissed. "You can't manage without me. You'll regret this." She turned and left the room, the sound of her footsteps heavy on the wooden floor. The following days felt like walking through a minefield. She barely spoke to me, except to deliver cold, clipped remarks. The air in the house was thick, suffocating, but in the silence, memories of my childhood grew louder. I was 15, sitting at my desk with a pencil in hand, trying to finish my math homework. My mother leaned over my shoulder, her breath hot on my neck, her finger jabbing at the page. "Wrong. That's wrong again. You're careless. You'll never succeed if you keep making stupid mistakes." I clenched my fists, wanting to scream that I was trying my best, that her constant presence made it impossible to think, but I swallowed the words, just as I always did. "Sorry, Mom," I muttered. Her eyes narrowed. "Sorry isn't good enough." And just like that, I learned that nothing I did would ever be enough. The past and present blurred. My son's soft cries reminding me that I now held a choice. I could either let history repeat itself, or I could break the cycle. Daniel noticed the tension. One evening, after putting the baby down, he sat beside me on the couch. His voice was calm but steady. "Emily, I can see what this is doing to you. You don't have to keep her here. We can ask her to leave." I shook my head, guilt pressing down on me. "She's my mother. I can't just throw her out." Daniel's eyes softened. "Loving her doesn't mean letting her hurt you, or our son. Sometimes protecting your family means drawing the line." His words weighed heavily in my chest. The breaking point came 3 days later. It was morning. I was in the kitchen, bouncing my son lightly on my hip while preparing a bottle. My mother walked in, her eyes immediately darting to my hands. "You're holding him all wrong," she snapped. "Give him here before you hurt him." I sighed, exhausted. "Mom, please. He's fine. I've got this." But she didn't listen. She marched forward, her hands reaching for my baby. Something inside me erupted. I stepped back sharply, my voice rising, echoing through the room. "No, enough. This is my son, not yours. You don't get to decide how I raise him." Her eyes widened, as if she'd been slapped. My heart pounded, but I didn't stop. "You controlled my entire childhood. Every choice, every word, every move. I lived in fear of disappointing you. And I let it happen because I was a child. But I'm not a child anymore. I'm a mother, and I won't let you do this to my son." Her face hardened, her voice trembling with rage. "How dare you speak to me like this after everything I've done for you?" Tears burned my eyes, but I stood tall. "Everything you did for me came with chains, Mom, chains. I'm breaking now. If you can't respect me, then you can't stay." The room fell silent. My son stirred against me, letting out a tiny whimper. I kissed his head, my arms tightening protectively. For a long moment, my mother said nothing. Then she turned sharply and stormed out of the kitchen. That night, I heard drawers slamming and bags unzipped. She was packing. I stood in the doorway of her room, my heart aching. Her hands moved quickly, stuffing clothes into a suitcase. Her jaw clenched tight. She refused to look at me. "Mom," I said softly. She didn't stop. "Please don't leave like this. I don't want to cut you out of our lives, but I need you to respect me as a mother. That's all I'm asking." Finally, she looked up. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, her voice bitter. "You'll regret this. You think you're strong enough, but you're not. You'll come crawling back, just like I once did." I shook my head gently, my voice trembling but firm. "No, I won't, because I have to be strong for him." Her gaze flicked to the baby monitor on my nightstand, where the soft sound of my son's breathing filled the room. For a second, her face softened. Then she looked away, zipping her suitcase closed with finality. The next morning, she left. I stood at the window, holding my baby in my arms, watching as she walked down the driveway with her suitcase. Her figure grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared around the corner. A strange quiet filled the house. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But the quiet wasn't peaceful, it was heavy with grief. I sank into the couch, tears spilling down my cheeks. My son nestled against me. Daniel wrapped his arm around my shoulders, kissing the top of my head. "You did the right thing," he whispered. I nodded, though my heart ached. "I know, but it still hurts." That night, as I rocked my son to sleep, I whispered into his tiny ear, "My darling boy, you'll never know the chains I carried. You'll never feel the fear of being silenced, the pain of never being enough. I promise you, I will never let anyone take away your voice. I will never let anyone make you feel small, not even me." His small hand curled around my finger, his grip surprisingly strong for something so fragile. My chest swelled with both love and resolve. "I endured her control all my childhood," I whispered, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "But not with you, not ever with you. You'll grow up safe, I promise." And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. A strength I had never known. A strength born not from fear, but from love. For the first time in my life, I had stood up to her. And for the first time, I felt free.